Okay, hello everyone. Happy Friday. I hope you're all staying warm. I wanted to give a summary video from the office hours we just had and some questions that have come through to me just directly on both. First, I'm going to talk about the scoping review and then I'll talk about the KT project, some updates on that. So for the scoping review, as I told you all, the due date is now this coming Monday, the 17th at the end of the day. So like the other submissions, the submission will close at midnight. As you all are reviewing your feedback, both from your peer and from the instructor that looked at your paper, I want you all to really, if you got formatting feedback, that's mostly just for your information. If it's an easy fix, definitely go for that. If it's a bigger fix, I don't want you spending your time on that. I want us all spending time on the content that we were looking to build out for this last portion for this course. Okay, so again, looking at content, one piece of that content is that abstract that you constructed. So one thing I will say about formatting is some of you all followed just the general APA formatting and created just a running paragraph for your abstract. And I don't want you to do that. I want you to follow the AJOT author guidelines. So I've plugged in those author guidelines a couple more places just to make that clearer for you all. And it's definitely feedback I will be forwarding on for future iterations of this class, just to make that really clear that that is what I want you to use to guide the structure of your abstract. There are overarching methods that you use in constructing an abstract, and that was some of the content I wanted you to pull from some of the more general abstract resources. One being that in an abstract, you actually don't have to use a fully constructed sentence. They can be more like short statements. Abstracts are all about like economy of wording. So you don't want to be repeating things. You want to state every word in your abstract should add something. It's like you're trying, and it's actually kind of an art. It's a whole situation, but mostly I just want you all to have that takeaway and understanding, do the best you can with that. I do certainly want you to use, so if you look at the AJOT author guidelines, they have a specific structured abstract that AJOT uses, and that abstract has specific subheadings. And so really it's best if you even like can spell out those subheadings. So some of you all had those, some of you didn't. Some of you had some of the headings that they asked for, some didn't. So just refer to that. That's a piece of content that I really want you to spend some effort on and practice with this assignment. Um, the next piece is limitations. I've gotten questions about limitations. You absolutely always need to talk about limitations, and especially even in reviews, because there are a lot of decisions that you are making as you go through your very like thoughtful process for looking at sources, right? And you want to report those and you want to, and sometimes you have to make decisions and there are drawbacks to those decisions, and that's fine. But where you're able to portray that is in your limitations section. Um, so you do need to have a limitations section. You always need to have a limitations section. And so then the second piece to that is what you put in the limitations section. Some of you all were commenting more on kind of the limitations of the field, and that is great, and that can be a piece of it, but also limitations on your process, on how you constructed your review, and limitations and decisions you had to make. That's another place for that information. So add those, and that goes in your discussion section. Um, Another section that AJOT author guidelines asks for that I really wanted you guys to spend time on and think about. And some of you all didn't have this at all. And you're going to lose points if you do not have this in your scoping review. It's the implications for OT practice. So, and spell that out. Have that as your header, not just implications. Implications for OT practice. And there is a really nice description of what that should look like in the AJOT author guidelines. So refer to that. And then they also tell you where it should go. So it's going to go after your discussion section and before your conclusion, which makes a lot of sense. You're wrapping up your concepts from your discussion, you're pulling it into your conclusion, and a lot of you got feedback from me that, your conclusion was great, but particularly if you're targeting a journal like AJOT, it's great in your conclusion to kind of take a thread. So take a thread from your implications of OT practice, have it in that like final sentence. Why should OTs care? Make people excited about it. Make OTs excited about this. Bring in the importance to OT. Just have at least a little tie-in. That's like the ideal with your conclusion section. And again, go to AJOT author guidelines, reference kind of what you should have in conclusion. Conclusion isn't very long. And it's another place, a lot of the content that you had to create for this course, for this paper, it actually takes a lot of work to make it concise and cohesive. Conclusion, that's what that is. Abstract, that's what that is, right? And then another piece I just thought of, your discussion section. I had a broad spectrum of kind of what I got in that discussion section. So I just want to relay to you all your discussion section. You're tying in major concepts from your data, and then you're relaying it to the broader field, to what is being seen in the broader context. And you're talking about how what you found fits into that. And so discussion, you might have additional references and citations to see some of those key pieces of literature in the broader context of your field. This discussion is kind of like, let's discuss how this fits into the field at large, why it matters, all of that. So discussion is it's a hefty section usually. Intro can be kind of that, but really discussion. Discussion holds a lot of that heft in a manuscript. Okay. If you hear little noises in the background, I am sorry. My children are on a snow day today. So they have been instructed to be quiet, but I don't know how good they are being at that. So I'm sorry if you're hearing noises. Okay, moving on to your knowledge translation project. I loved seeing all of your topics. I am so excited to see these presentations, and I have some just kind of general feedback I wanted to relay to you all. So the first is a big update. I hope you all are going to see this. Please spread word. I know you all have the different networks of friends within your cohort. I have made a decision. We had kind of a snowball of assignments due. So we had both that KT plan part 2 and the scoping review was now going to be due on Monday, because I had given you the extension for the scoping review, and I just didn't like that. So the point of the KT plan part 2 assignment was mostly to get you all feedback before you roll into your final part 3, right? So holding with that, and if that was the primary interest for me, I made the decision we're going to retract that as an assignment. It's not going to be graded. It's not going to have that level. I know there's just like a different level of attention and concern and thought that goes into a graded assignment. I mostly want it to be a process, and I want it to be a marker for kind of where I expect you should be in the process of the KT plan. So refer to that. Part 2 spells out that you should have worked through the first through this section 6 of that planning template. So that's mostly as a guide for you about like where you should be in the process. Of course, if you're further along, great. And also, just a little note, it may not be that linear for you as you work through this project, and that's okay. The template is mostly a guide. But so I just want to reiterate to that. So part 2 is not required on Monday. It's not required at all. But I still wanted to offer you that opportunity for feedback. So I have maintained a submission box for part 2. You can submit your part 2 or wherever it's at on Monday. I won't offer feedback after anything's submitted on Monday. I have a deadline though of Monday. So if you want feedback, submit it on Monday, and then I will work as fast as I can. I'm going to do that just in a rolling basis. So as I get submissions, since it's not required, I'm going to just start going through in the order of receipt and rolling out feedback to folks. So again, just to reiterate this, Monday, February 17th, part 2, not required, no longer an assignment. Optional, you can submit, and I will provide you feedback that you can use as you move into part 3. Okay. So another thing I wanted to touch on related to some questions that I've gotten in open office hours and just directly through email. So I want to touch on the fact that the knowledge translation as a field and a concept really is really somewhat new. It's a developing field. And in line with that come all of the things like, so a lot of the phrases, wording, that's used in the template, there are not like agreed upon definitions for these things. Mostly it's a guide. So it's a way to just start thinking like, oh, that could be a type of partner, but that's not steadfast. If there is something that's not listed there, guys, quiet. There may be, you know, a partner, an agency, an organization, somewhere or place that you want to target with your plan that's not listed there, and that's totally okay. The template is just a guide. So I've gotten a good amount of questions about section 2. Section 2 is asking kind of like where your plan is in the process of rolling out information, essentially. And it has these little check boxes of like the beginning all the way through rollout, or maybe you're partway through and you're just needing to roll out. So what I've been telling folks is really your evidence in your field and where things are at are going to dictate this. And a good way to organize this and come up with this in your mind is to try to use one of the models that have been suggested for KT. So I wanted to flag for you, if you go back to day 7, there's a linked PDF and it's titled Introduction to KT. In that PDF, it's a chapter. There are a few different models that have been developed for knowledge translation. Girls, quiet. I'm sorry, I don't want to redo this video. My children are not being the best in the background. I'm sorry. So that's a great reference for this. You'll find those models and you'll see some of them are more linear, some of them are more cyclical, where it's kind of like an ongoing process. So what you want to do is kind of think through for your type of evidence, for your type of problem, for those that are involved, what model best encompasses that, and how do you want to tackle it? And that will then help you kind of answer that question in section 2. So you kind of think about that. And that can be help to be a guiding force for that. Okay. Sorry for the children interruptions in the background. I hope that's helpful. Again, I'm really excited about KT. The last thing I want to speak to is as we roll into, you know, part 3 and the presentations. If you are kind of wondering what your presentation should look like, go to the I'm sorry, they're distracting my brain. It's quiet, girls. If you go to the grading rubric for part 3, it lists out kind of what I'll be looking for in your presentation. So you guys, basically, if you just like hit on all those things, it'll be a nice, easy, clean thing. I could say, great, touched on everything, and we'll be good to go. So when you're putting together presentations, you're wondering what you should include, look at that. So look at the grading rubric that was put in the part 3 assignment description. Okay, and I am still working through, I will publish some point today, maybe at 8 p.m. after my children are asleep, because we're dealing with a snow day today. But I'm going to publish those presentation times for everybody. And another note, as you submit your section 2 for KT, as you submit your section 3 next week, I have gone into Moodle and I have told Moodle your pairings or your groupings. We have a group of 3. I hope I did this correctly, but it should be correct. I've checked it a number of times now. So when you go and submit, Moodle is going to know and is going to automatically link that submission to your partner. So you should be able to just submit it once. It's going to be linked. Yeah. So just FYI on that. Again, feedback for part 2. Honestly, you guys, I'm just going to see how quickly I can get through it. I'm going to roll it out to you as fast as I can because obviously that's helpful as you finalize. So I'm going to be prioritizing that. Your grades for your scoping review and your quantitative assessment are just going to come through more at the end of the course, just so that I can be more present and helping you through the process of the KT plan. Okay, that is everything. I'll also have office hours at 10 a.m. on Monday as usual. So if you have last minute questions about your scoping review as you're finishing up, you can jump on there. Or if you have questions about KT process. And before maybe you want to submit, but you want to check something. And just reiterating, you don't have to submit either. If it's just too much to get your head around on Monday, I want you to be able to focus on that scoping review. And as always, I'm always here to meet with you one-on-one or answer any questions. Okay, it's kind of a long video. I just wanted to make sure we were all on the same page, and I loved seeing your scoping reviews. I loved seeing your KT projects. I'm so excited about you guys. And this is important, and I'm really passionate about this. And so we're going to just work our way through the nuts and bolts of this course with keeping our eyes on what's important. What's important is that you understand this content, you get a chance to practice it, and you're leaving it with a good grounding and all of that. So that's just my takeaway for you. And now I have the dog here. Okay, well, hi from Doggy and my whole situation here. I hope you all are having good snow days, and we're just gonna do this. And lastly, I love all of your guys' work. I am here even after you graduate. I am your resource. I would love an email saying, "Hey, Katie, I'm thinking about being on this task force. How do I go about this?" I am very passionate about OTs in science and us being players in a lot of these policy decisions and all types of things. So I am here. That's why I'm excited about being the new instructor on this evidence-based series. And you all are going to be integral in helping me kind of hone in on how to go about this with future cohorts. So all that to say, thank you. Reach out anytime as we finish up this next week. And yeah, happy snow day. Okay.